Hello, everyone, and welcome to our chat this week or this month when we're talking to our featured expert, Amber Digger from A Profit for Keeps. Now, Amber is honestly, she is a wealth of knowledge. She is the founder of Profit for Keeps, a system which was developed for entrepreneurs to end the stress and anxiety around numbers. It's a holistic system combining personal finance and business cash flow strategies using Profit First and YNAB. You need a budget. She has helped hundreds of coaches implement this system and has helped thousands more calculate revenue goals that actually make sense. She's a certified health coach in IIN and worked in corporate finance for 15 years before venturing out on her own in 2015 and thrives on being location independent. She loves traveling, wine, bicycles, knitting, and a good cup of tea if in England, and it's coffee if in Italy. So welcome, Amber.
Thanks so much for having me, Tony. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
So for our wider community that does not know, is that Amber is our featured expert for this month in Successful Salons Club, and she has shared her Profit for Keeps and a spreadsheet and a huge wealth of knowledge in there for our salon owners to help them become more financially independent and really have a bird's eye look at where they are in their business. So I know that if you're not in Successful Salons Club or part of Amber's community, you won't know what this is. So I really would like to dive in with you, Amber, and if you could explain what Profit for Keeps is and then how you came about doing this wonderful work.
Sure. So, Profit for Keeps is essentially helping salon and business owners get clear on where money is going, both in business and in personal. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we feel like we are having a business that's supporting the lifestyle that we want, the investments that we're making in our business, that we have enough money for taxes, and we still are profitable at the end of the day. And ultimately, without having some sort of system in place, it can be sometimes a bit difficult, stressful, anxiety producing to not have a plan in place to make that happen. So this really solves that part of the piece. And also it's a holistic approach to not only looking at how much money you're making in your business, but how it applies to your life, making sure that you're covering your personal finances, your business finances, and really uncovering any money mindset blocks or other blocks that you may have, so that you can really set up a wealth consciousness practice, a practical money systems, and really just feel like this is no longer a problem. So that's really why Profit for Keeps started. And it was developed so that really we can really be focusing our beautiful time and energy on those that we're serving and doing things that really bring us joy. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we're here for.
Awesome. So how did you come about to be doing this? Because it's such a contribution.
Thank you. Well, this work was not something I ever thought I would do. I honestly never thought I was going to do this. I left corporate finance very, very happy to leave it behind. Money is one of these things that we've taken a very simple concept, which is trading a coin for a service, to something so complex that most people's eyes get crossed when they just start thinking or hearing anything about money. So for those of you watching this right now, I just want you to really give yourself just a beautiful hug. Give yourself this pat on the back that you are having this conversation, that you are listening to this conversation, that you are taking this in. This is such a huge movement that you are contributing to the greater good. If we all are continuing to increase our knowledge and our understanding of this concept, money, and what it means, the better we will all be. So thank you for listening to this conversation. And thank you for being open to this knowledge. I went into this because it kind of fell in my lap. So again, I left corporate thinking I wasn't going to do this. And then I went into the health coaching industry, and I was running a virtual practice, and it was awesome. I moved to Bali, Indonesia, which is definitely a common location, I'm sure, for many of you guys in New Zealand and Australia. For me, it was a foreign, far off, like land that I didn't even exactly know where it was. But I wanted to go there because I had heard of another health coach basically transferring her business there. And I thought, well, what a cool way to really experience location independence, because that was my biggest thing. Well, anyone that's living in Bali running a business, the one main thing that we all share is this desire for independence and freedom. And I would say it really expands to anyone running a business. There is some desire for an independence, freedom, and autonomy, being able to be your own boss. And as I watched and saw more and more people, they were struggling with the cash flow side of things. And so I was being asked to go and speak holistically about this, looking at the mindset piece, looking at the coaching piece, looking at the practical sides. And I realized that there really just wasn't a lot of conversation or even content on this subject. There was a lot of content on bookkeeping and how to do entrepreneurial bookkeeping and, taxes and financial planning or financial independence, like how to budget and how to keep things really, really low cost, or how to save lots of money. But there wasn't anything about how do I run a business where I'm making enough money to pay myself consistently, even if I have variable income months? How do I make sure I have enough money for taxes? How do I set up a system that actually consistently pays me? None of that was available. And on top of that, there wasn't really a lot of conversation around healing your relationship with money, paired with practical steps to take action so you feel less stress and anxiety. So after just talking to more and more people and realizing this was a huge, huge problem that could absolutely be eradicated with a simple solution of just showing people that there's actually another way to do things. And it's not what you learn. Really, we don't learn a lot about money anyway. And that's just not part of the equation, right? So that's how I shifted into it. And so I pivoted about a year into my health coaching business into this space. And I'm really grateful because my clients have taught me so much. And on top of that, I just see the massive impact that they're making by no longer having to spend any contaminated time on timing of cash flow, on stressing about money, because it's taken care of. So that's how I moved into that.
Fantastic. So I want to touch on, but when you were talking before, you talked about money being a tool and energy, and and it's an exchange. So I know for a lot of people that they can be holding on to their money so tight because they're scared. And we've all been there at some stage, so no judgment whatsoever. But can you sort of dive into that a little bit more and just sort of explain the reasoning or the why behind how it's a tool?
Sure. So like you said, Tony, money is simply a resource. I say this probably 5 times a week because it's such an important concept. So if it's the first time you really heard this, just write it down. Money is simply a resource, just like any other resource. So if you have a fireplace in your house, you probably have a pile of wood sitting outside next to your house. And you probably have a certain amount that you feel comfortable with. You don't have your entire backyard and your front yard, or I don't know, you may call them gardens. Like you don't fill them with so much wood that you can't see the windows, see out your window of your house, right? You have a certain amount. And the same thing with water. We cannot store all the water that we would ever possibly need for our whole lifetime. We have to just have faith that water will continue to flow into our life as we need it. and that we can be very grateful for what's there. So money is the same thing. It's flowing into our life to be used, and it's a conduit of our intentions. This is from The Soul of Money, which is a book by Lynn Twist. She talks about how money is a conduit of our intentions. And if you think about money as being a free-flowing river, when you have a river and money's flowing down the river and it's running very smoothly, when you have a river that's not, super strong, but just a nice, gentle current, it's very clean and pristine water. It's so much nicer to swim in a gentle river than it is to swim in a little tiny pond, right? Because the pond is quite stagnant. Who knows what's going on in there? But with the river, you know that it's moving, so it's always clean. Whereas on the sides of the river, there may be a smaller portion that's being held by a rock or by a twig or a branch or something that's creating this smaller cesspool where it's more stagnant. That type of water is going to feel murky, is going to feel much less pristine. And this is what can be signified as that holding on to the money, scared to spend it, because it becomes stagnant energy. So this karmic cycle of money is where you're spending it with intention. This is important. You're not just like, you wouldn't take your money and throw it in the bin, right? Like, you want to make sure it's things that you're actually going to be using and appreciating and having gratitude for, with the recognition that when you create a space by spending money, it's refilled. It's a renewable resource. Whereas time is not a renewable resource. So if you've ever heard that concept, time is more valuable than money. It comes from the idea that time is a finite thing in our current life, and money is not. Money is a renewable thing, so you can really figure out, I would much rather start with zero again with the knowledge that I have than to start with $1 million and have no knowledge, right? Because it's much better to have the knowledge than necessarily the money. So for any of you that's watching this and feeling like, I'm so scared to spend my money, it's a place to be in when you are truly just recognizing, I'm trying to protect myself. I don't want to feel like I'm being, willy-nilly with my money. I want to make sure I'm spending it with intention. And that's a good thing. Being in that space is a very good thing. And allowing yourself to explore your relationship with money, what money truly means to you, what it's doing for you. The fact that it's sitting in a big pile doesn't do anything, right? But sitting in intentional piles where you plan to give yourself permission to spend or use it at a later time or a specific point in time, that's when you can really start to feel like, okay, I'm becoming a responsible financial steward of this resource, and I feel very confident where it's going.
Perfect. I love it. So one of the things is that, and this is what I love about the whole concept for Profit for Keeps, and I was lucky enough to do it a couple of years ago, so with Amber. So I have a bit of knowledge of, I've put it into practice, but I know that a lot of times some people, because it is really a new school of thinking as such, some people can be very or have been brought up that, and it's the same, people have been brought up that you got to work hard for your money and, things like that. But people can be, you pay your bills first and pay yourself last, which is very different to what you share and teach. What do you say to that? And I mean, I don't want anyone to feel like we're judging them or it's wrong or right or anything like that. It's just a different way of opening up, a different realm of thinking and doing.
Sure. So, I totally grew up with that same mentality. I actually had a physicist as a father. So he was a very black and white scientist, like right, wrong, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and very pragmatic. So for me to be going into more of a wealth consciousness point of view is quite a leap from where I grew up. That said, we typically will do whatever we first learned in the first 6 years or so of our existence. So just know that there's nothing wrong with how you're currently approaching things. It's just subconsciously what's been programmed in. So what you really want to be doing is determining what's going to feel really good to you going forward. And I believe very strongly, and I think that many of us are now really understanding this concept of putting ourselves first so that we really truly can be in service of others, of those we love, of our family, of our clients, of our business. Kate Northrup recently has been coining the term body first, business second. And I love this concept because regardless of our business, if our health is not in check, how can we possibly continue on with the business, right? So it's always important to put our body first, business second. And the same goes for when you're in business. You want to put you first, business second. In general, you want to put your financial stability and sustainability first before anything else. And so one thing is really becoming clear on what that means. And that's a process that, you know, we talk about in the expert training in your club, and also just in my program in general. We look at what is it that you want to be making in your business to cover all of your investments, to be able to pay yourself consistently, so you're not having to even make that decision. And the interim, if you're not hitting that revenue goal, you can then start looking at other revenue sources and revenue streams, and feel confident, for example, if you're in a part-time job, to stay in that part-time job until you really see that you can confidently move into full-time being a business owner. So all of those things are answered when you have more clarity around how much you want to be making and how to consistently pay yourself while still being intentionally profitable. And all of this is stuff that we cover in the training as well.
Yes. I just noticed your Untamed. I've been reading that on Audible. Totally change the subject, but yes, it's very good.
Oh yeah, you know what's funny is I have not started it yet. And I have this, it was a gift. And I actually have put it there this last weekend for me. And because I want to subconsciously remove this block that I have about reading the book. There's something about it that I absolutely must learn and need to hear, and my body is resisting it. So I'm putting it there to remind myself, like, yep, it's there.
Oh,
and
there's lots of ahas, I tell you.
I've heard, my whole team has read it, and I've been hearing so many, you know, even just this week having it sitting there, everyone's saying, oh my God, I've read that, or I'm reading it. And so it's clearly my next book. I'm putting it there, so it is.
Love it. That's good. So talking about blocks, one of the things that I think as a business owner, and especially as a salon owner, they can work really hard on the floor, and you know, and I love what you talked about before about paying yourself, and because then you feel like you're getting paid your worth, and then you can be of more service, and it's a fun thing. It's not just like scrambling and doing that whole hustle. So for a salon owner that maybe have money blocks, how would you recognize you have money blocks? If this is a new conversation that we're having, how would you recognize if you're a salon owner or just a person in general that had money blocks?
Well, first of all, if you're breathing, you probably have them. I have them. I'm sure, Tony, you have them.
Oh,
Denise Duffield Thomas has them.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
So just know that if you're breathing, you have them. That said, the more clarity you have around the root of them and being able to recognize that that's what's going on and move forward is one of the most beautiful things of being more conscious and aware of your money blocks, because they don't necessarily go away. You just spend less time in them. And you kind of allow them a back seat and say, okay, thank you very much, and I'm going to keep moving forward. And it gets more comfortable to be uncomfortable. And that's really the main thing here. But some things that I notice in early stages of really becoming more aware of money blocks are when you catch yourself saying, I can't afford that, or I'm never going to make enough money for this, or I could never possibly raise my prices to that amount. Or whenever you're using language that's limiting, is usually an indication that there's some very strong blocks that are currently playing out. Another thing is, if you physically feel sick when you think about anything to do with money, if you think about debt, or when you think about raising prices or looking at your bank account, if you feel in your body this resistance or this anxiousness, that's a really good indication that there's something there that could be worked through. And the good thing about all of this is, because you're breathing, you most likely are experiencing this. There are so many beautiful tools out there to help you work through them. And I have this quick story that I read in a book, actually, when I was in Singapore on a visa run. And I've just happened to come across it. Went to the Japanese bookstore. I don't know if you've ever been there in Singapore, but it's just like this massive bookstore. And we have one in New York City. So when I saw that there were not one, but 4 in Singapore, there's only one in New York City. And for some reason, there's 4 in Singapore. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to go to this bookstore. So I went in there and I immediately found this book called The Crossroads Between Should and Must. And this was such an awesome book. It was really simple. It was like really, really short. But in there, they talk about this concept of what is the very first thing you need to know when you want to escape prison. And my first answer was, well, obviously you need to know where the key is, right? Like, that's what I thought. And the answer was, no, it has nothing to do with the key or the escape route or what the schedule of the guard is. You need to know that you're in prison. That's the very first thing you need to know. And I was like, whoa, that's so true. A lot of times we don't even know that we have this block that's preventing us from higher income, that's preventing us from an easier way to make money, that's preventing us from working less and making more. All of these things can be completely oblivious to us that are working against what we truly do desire. And that's when this work is really, really important, because the more self-awareness work you do around money blocks, you can then start taking some practical action, get more clarity, recognize that being uncomfortable is the signal of growth, and that anything awkward and uncomfortable is due to unfamiliarity. And as you gain more familiarity, you become less awkward, you feel less uncomfortable. So it's just a journey, and we're all on it together. And the more that we really encourage one another to stick with this, the better we all will be.
Definitely. And I think it's always good to hit these things head on and not probably put our heads in the sand, because sometimes, and we've all done it, like when I first went into business, I didn't know all these things about taxes and what you had to do, and it's not until somebody tells you and then you pay attention. So I get it, and then you can deal with it and move on. So I think that's a really good, and I love that you talked about a book that helped you as well, because I think those are all different things that we can all do to help ourselves to take us really to that next level, just with our mindset and development and our business as well. What would your top 3 pieces of advice be for somebody, like for a salon owner, thinking about adapting Profit for Keeps or learning more about Profit for Keeps?
Okay, top 3 pieces of advice. The first one I would say is grant yourself a measurable grace in this process. Don't for a moment spend a lot of time in all of these decisions that you made and thinking of them as poor decisions, or that if you had only known about this sooner. Giving yourself grace is one of the most beautiful things you can do, and really forgive yourself for anything that you feel frustrated about. That's, I would say, the number one thing. So because that allows you to open yourself up to really take in a new approach. And without that, it's going to be difficult to move forward. The second thing is really committing to no plan B, deciding that this is absolutely what you're focusing on until you no longer think of it as an issue. And that is something that can absolutely happen when you have a proper plan in place. And third is just getting started. So one of the very first things that I recommend is to calculate a revenue goal. And I have a revenue goal calculator. We also do challenges. We're doing a next one in September where we take you through a process to help you get a revenue goal. Those things are really important. Also, you have even more specific, detailed advice in the expert session that I did with Tony, specific for your industry. So that in itself, having a revenue goal can then help you look at your business, and you can say, okay, well, my revenue is going to be different than the salon that's 100 miles south of me, because my business expenses are different, my personal expenses are different, and that's okay. We all are individual, unique people. So to have the same business model or the same exact revenue goal doesn't make sense. But when you have that calculated, you can then look at your revenue streams, and you can look at your business model and the way that you're currently running business. And you can see why you either are feeling like there's never enough money, and it may be because your revenue is lower than the goal you calculated, which is 9 times out of 10 what people discover. So just know that this process, the first bit of clarity can almost feel like pulling the Band-Aid off a bit, but it's so important because that one uncomfortable day will save you a lifetime of frustration and discomfort, because you can then start taking forward action to pivot to make that more profitable and sustainable. So that's what I would do.
Awesome. And I think too, like I say to my private clients, is that what does it feel like for you not to worry about money? Like really feel into that feeling, because once you feel into that feeling, and it's all like law of attraction and all those sorts of things, but when you start to bring it all together, then some really big shifts can happen, and you can start to take some real big leaps and bounds.
For sure. And you're referencing something that I believe wholeheartedly, and it's this feeling is the secret. It's a book by Neville Goddard. Feeling is a secret. When you can feel into that which you desire, which, just like Tony said, when you can feel like you are no longer stressing about money, everything magically starts to align for that to happen, because the universe is going to respond to the feeling that you're giving off. And that feeling, when you can step into it ahead of time, it just aligns things so much faster. I love that book. I listen to it all the time. And it's just like, whenever I need a little mindset check, I listen to it again. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's very simple, but so, so, so clear. We have to feel into that to really receive it.
So important. And we can do it for so many different things, especially business owners and salon owners. You might be having, team meetings, you might be hiring staff or team members, and, like anything, suppliers, if you'd like some bonus money to come in, like there's just so many different things that you can do to help you and to, move the universe in that direction and get into that feeling. But what I want to talk to you about is, because you mentioned before, is a challenge. So do you want to share with the community, with our community, about the challenge? And obviously we'll put a link up for them to come and join you in that challenge.
Absolutely. Well, so we have done these challenges for several years now, and they've all been focused around this revenue goal concept. Because of anything that I wish that I had when I first started out in business was a way to calculate how much I needed to be bringing in and how to actually organize it when it comes in. Because even me, who has a degree in finance, who worked in executive level positions in finance, when it came to my own business finances when I first got started, I didn't really know. I had a concept, I had an idea of what I think I should be doing, but I wasn't positive that it was the right way to go about it. And that's really saying something, right? So when you have a way to say, okay, yes, this is a proven method to help me make sure that I can consistently pay myself and I have enough money for taxes and expenses and still be profitable. That is the one thing I would have given anything for in the beginning. So we always want to make sure that we do experiences where regardless, you are receiving a huge gift of clarity when you go through this process. So we've done it for a long time. Well, as you know, 2020 is very different than past years. So we decided we needed to revamp the challenge a little bit and really show up for the community in a way that could help navigate the uncertain financials that we have right now. Like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know, we have a lot of uncertainty, more so than I would say normally. And we also just practically have a very different set of expenses right now. You know, very few of us are going out to eat very often. Very few of us are getting massages right now. Very few of us are doing a lot of things that we normally would be doing. And so that can adjust and change what we actually require from our own businesses. Also change how we're showing up for our clients. So these challenges were built so that we could take all of our expenses, regardless of whether or not we're experiencing them right now, and categorize them as either a must-need expense. For example, your rent or your mortgage would be a must-need expense regardless of a pandemic, right? You're still going to have that. And then something like going out to eat may be a nice to have or a future expense. And so what we do is we show you a way to categorize everything for both personal and business so that you can run a series of revenue goals, a must-need revenue goal, a current situation revenue goal, a future revenue goal. And so it just helps you start to navigate and plan and strategize how to move your business forward. And that's what we've been doing. We've done 2 now with this new method, and we'll do another one in September. We're really excited about it. People have been blown away by the insight that they're getting from this experience. But at the end of the day, without your commitment and time putting set aside to do the work, it doesn't magically do itself for you. So you want to make sure that you're really committed to going through the full process.
Definitely. And I think, and I love the idea of doing this, because I think the more knowledge you have, the more you get to make an informed decision. And the more empowered you feel, and the more in control you feel of what is happening with your life and your business.
Amen, sister.
Okay, so Amber, and I know it's nighttime where you are now, so I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but can you tell our community how can they work with you, where can they find you, and tap into that knowledge? Because honestly, I want to say to the community, if you ever have the opportunity to work with Amber or have a conversation with Amber, it'll be one of the best things that you ever do, because the way she talks about money, she has such a calmness around it. She has the knowledge around it, and she has the ability to help change everything for you. So I want to encourage everyone to jump on with Amber in the challenge and do these things with you, because honestly, your future self will thank you for it.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words, Tony. And it's just been such an honor to be able to serve your community, both your club and also your broader community. So I just want to say thank you again, and for everything you're doing for this industry and this community. It's just amazing. So everyone that's watching this, obviously the very first thing that I would suggest would be to move and consider going into Tony's club, because we did a full expert series specifically for your industry. So I would say that's one of the best first steps to work with me. If you go through that and you feel like, oh my gosh, I definitely want to take this further, the challenge is a really amazing thing to do. Also, it really shows and sets the groundwork up to fully implement this Profit for Keeps system that we teach in a group environment. And it's a really beautiful community because people are all in different stages, but they're so supportive of one another. And it's a really beautiful, safe space to have conversations around not only the practical systems, but also the mindset piece. And what I see as more and more people come into this community, I have people willing to do internships with me to just come in and help people in the group. And they are so on this movement of completely eradicating financial stress and anxiety that comes alongside money. So this is so much bigger than me. This is this community that has grown, that has really come to love and support one another. And I do believe that this is a problem that is not necessary. There are some certain things that we just unfortunately can't necessarily remove from our life, that we don't have control over. But I do believe this is something you do have control over. But the most important thing is that you have determined that there is no plan B, that you have determined that this is the right time for you to fully focus and get all in on this. And what ends up happening is that when you make that commitment, it's way easier than you thought it was. And we take you through a process where it doesn't take you a long time to implement, and we give you a lot of time to actually learn and ask questions specific to how you have set it up for your particular business. So we have a free Facebook community called Sweet Life Purposeful Money. I will say though, we are in the process of possibly changing this to Profit for Keeps community, because we want to really start to align all the names. But just know that if you go to my Facebook page, which will always be my name, Amber Duggar, you can definitely find the group there. And I'm also on Instagram, and I love connecting with people on Instagram, and that's profit.with.amber. The group course is called Profit for Keeps, and you can find more information at profitforkeeps.com.
Awesome. I will put all those links up up somewhere on here on the blog post and they can grab those links and then head on over and be in your community and learn so much more from you. I just think you're a wealth of knowledge, and I know what you did for our members in Successful Salons Club, and seeing you did it specifically for the industry, and I know that was very, very well received, because sometimes they're like, oh, what are we going to do here? And it's like, hang on. So thank you very, very much, and thank you for your time today and sharing your beautiful knowledge with our wider community. Is so appreciated.
It's my absolute pleasure. It's been an honor to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Amber.